This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Infineon. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, October 10th, 2024. And I've got the awesome Adrian Miko-Wychuk of Infineon here with me. Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. You're very kind. I've never been introduced that way. So thank you for that. I hope I earn it.
I've had you on the show before and you were pretty damn awesome. So it's great to have you back on. I'd love to chat with you some more about, Infineon, what your mission is. And of course, let's talk about the OktoberTech event that's happening very soon. And you've got some great demos and I'd like to go over that. So, I've discussed with many folks at Infineon over the years what your goals are and what you do. And, digitalization and decarbonization have been like the D&D, as I called them last year in our OktoberTech segment. They're like the key element of what Infineon is up to. And I think it's fascinating because you are essentially a company that makes chips and power modules. That's kind of like your bread and butter. That's what you're known for. And a lot of those things end up in products that we all use every day, my audience. And so, I think it's exciting because when you kind of scale up what you guys are doing with D&D, it just kind of permeates everything, right? And I think that's kind of what got me excited about talking with Infineon over the years. So walk us through a little bit what the D&D means for Infineon and how it ties in with OktoberTech.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, as you call it D&D, the decarbonization and digitization topic. For Infineon, as you mentioned, we do a lot in power. And, to your point about how things blow kind of into the system or go wider, we focus on efficiency. And so when you make something that's a little more efficient, it has massive repercussions in kind of a global reach basis. So one of the figures we use actually this year, I think, and we'll talk about this summit at OktoberTech too, is that there's about a 34x by our calculation kind of impact for, okay, we can do some things on our side with decarbonization and digitization, but when people implement these products into their systems, the return is quite huge from a point of view of just, again, that benefit you would get from the high efficiency. So that's a key piece. And then the other piece of digitization, this is where we do a lot of things in the IoT world between sensing and communications and so forth, where we're all about getting in some of these latest innovations kind of in the space where people can use them and actually feel the outcomes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what I've found always very exciting about, Infineon and last year when I went to OktoberTech, and, obviously that's why I'm excited about what's coming up this year, because I'll be there, is, it's that you're actually, kind of showcasing, you're setting an example, which I think is really, really interesting. Obviously your clients, the businesses you work with, your partners, they have their own set of goals. But I think a lot of them are aligned with you on the D&D stuff. It's just they might not necessarily know how to take best advantage of what's out there when they create a product, right? And so I think this is one of the things that I've observed Infineon does such a good job with. It's kind of like being able to walk your clients, your customers, your partners into the right direction, as it were, by giving them the tools that they need to create these products and keep D&D in mind. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think if I kind of summarize the two aspects of OktoberTech, we will absolutely have, in fact, our head of sustainability, board member, in fact, will be there, Elke Reichhardt, and she will be there actually talking about our sustainability activities and how we're doing something called product carbon footprint, which we can touch on in a second. And then the other half of that is we're showing off all our latest technology. So, kind of a rule of thumb we like to say is if it's on the web, maybe it's not the place to put in OktoberTech, right? But it's really kind of, so it's what's newest and what we're doing that's super cool that can help folks, our customer base, basically figure out their next thing. And then we have all our experts there as well, so they get an opportunity if they get an idea at the show to just figure that out right there on the spot and see if they can make it fly.
Yeah, and it's your 8th year, right? You've been bringing together a whole bunch of Silicon Valley heavyweights to the show, showing some technologies. I remember last year for me, the thing that stood out the most was the charging home solution, the bidirectional stuff that you had. I can't remember the name of the company, but I saw them again at IFA in Berlin just now. And, like a month ago, and it was really great. I'm like, I remember you guys from OktoberTech. So, things like that. And so, these are kind of younger startup kind of Silicon Valley companies that are basically coming to the show. How do you think the show has evolved over the years? Obviously, D&D has become a big mission for Infineon, but has the scope evolved at all?
It's interesting. I think the first time we started, we kind of were looking at it almost like a developers forum with some new technology thrown in there, and then we started talking to our customers, and we said, what do you really value? And I'd say there's 3 things that they really value, and the show's built around that. So the keynote is about getting to know Infineon, right? So we bring in execs from around the globe, so people actually get to hear these people directly talk about where Infineon's going, right? That's one aspect. Then the demos has grown. I think the first show, I take a guess, maybe we had 20, 30 demos. Now we've got almost 80 on the
Wow.
show floor. Yeah, and because we found that that's something people really resonate. They want to start thinking about their future and their next generation plans, and so that's always a really great highlight. So we kind of call that the get inspired part of the show, and then the final piece is. Was new last year, where we actually started creating formal structured meetings where we bring in key folks, key business leaders, we always had the key technical experts there, but we've created more of a formal structure where you can set up a meeting. You had a great idea on the floor. You go, I really want to meet with 2 people about this, an expert and maybe someone on the business side, and you can do that right there ad hoc and make a formal kind of outcome out of it. So
Yeah.
that's the way it's evolved. Now those are the focuses, and then at the end we have our Oktoberfest, of course, which is more just a friendly, fun aspect. That's always very popular.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, so the other thing I was going to ask you is, obviously there's going to be demos. We're going to cover some of that. Talk to us about, how you can make products that are more in line with T&D, what you mentioned before, product carbon footprint.
Yes.
Tell us more about that. And also, I kind of feel like one of the things that Infineon's been doing, which I think is fantastic, and this is why we have this podcast, and I've had guests from Infineon on the show for a while, is you trying, I think, as a company to raise awareness, not just on D&D and, providing solutions to your clients, customers, and partners, like what we're talking about here, but you also are showcasing for my audience who are consumers what, semiconductors can bring to the table in terms of D&D. So that's kind of why I'm excited, and I would like to hear more about the product carbon footprint stuff.
Sure. So yeah, let me touch on product carbon footprint. Maybe I use an analogy to kind of start what it is. If let's say you want to go on a diet, that's your thing, and then all of a sudden you go to the store, you kind of want to know what you're dealing with, right? If there's no calories on the food item, you're like, well, should I eat the cheesecake? Should I eat the rice cracker? I don't know. And
Should
so
always eat the cheesecake, clearly.
cheesecake is definitely the winner, but I think in that scenario, you just don't have the information if it's not available. And so, what we're trying to do with this product carbon footprint is actually give that kind of label data, if I may, that, if I use that analogy from before with the cheesecake, how many calories does it have? What kind of nutrients does it have? And that's what we're trying to do here. We're really driving the industry in this topic. And so we want to actually be able to show you that, okay, this part has this much energy consumed in its production, has this much carbon footprint tied to shipping and so forth. And that you can look up any part and you can actually see then what its impact is. So I think that's a really unique part. And Elke, again, will be doing a whole session on that for interested folks, and she'll be able to dive into it. and yeah, in fact, we've already launched it on the website, so it's available there, and you can find it.
Do you think it's possible that in the future we're going to get to a place where a consumer will be able to, probably especially in the EU, where I can see them, putting standards around that, where you buy like a pair of earbuds and on the back there's literally like the nutritional info of it, of how green it actually is. Of course, Apple's been talking about like the Apple Watches, the newest one, are completely carbon neutral, which is really crazy to me. Like, just
Yep.
as an engineer trying to wrap my head around that, it's like, wow. My point is, do you think we're going to get to that? Do you think that some of the things you're doing here are going to maybe incentivize your partners, clients, the companies you work with to kind of line up in one direction around that?
I mean, I think historically, I would say it would have been impossible because going through the chain, I mean, to do that in the end, you have to know all the pieces, right? So Infineon's an early part of the process. We're in the semiconductor side. So by us enabling that, then it becomes the next level that can enable it from their side and so forth. So 100%, I think that over the long haul, you'll be able to actually look and as you said, you'll be able to get that kind of label data, and you can make a decision based on that. So it's a key step, and what we're doing is a key kind of first step to achieving that. So
Fantastic.
Yes.
So let's dive into some of the demos.
Oh, okay. Yes, let's jump to that.
There's like a few demos that you stood out. You sent me a list so that everybody knows what's going on. And I think I picked, there's so much good stuff in here. Like, I think I picked 5, but I think there are 3 that you told me about that were amazing. There's a CGM solution that also measures lactate, which I think for some athletes and people who work out a lot is going to be a really great solution. There is a induction stovetop that uses voice controls and has touch controls that are impervious to water droplets. We've seen that on smartphone screens, but it's the first time I've heard of it on an appliance. Of course, power is your thing. So driving the power electronics for an induction cooktop would, for me, be the first company I would talk to. Would be Infineon if I was a manufacturer. And then the final one is related to gaming. You're showcasing a game control that basically has very few moving parts, and all of the actual contacts and electronic sensing is done with either capacitive touch or using a 3D Hall effect. So tell us a little bit about each of these demos. Let's start with the CGM lactate sensing. It sounds like it's a much smaller and potentially more affordable solution that you bring to the table here.
Yeah, so I think that's a really kind of fascinating topic. So I think for the audience, there's the 2 aspects. For those who aren't familiar with CGM, that's continuous glucose monitoring and then continuous lactate monitoring. The two things we'll be showing at OktoberTech. And the way I'd summarize those for folks is continuous glucose monitoring is about monitoring how diet impacts your health span and your physiology. And then the lactate monitoring is really about fitness. So how do you respond to exercise? So you've got diet and exercise kind of wrapped up into this sensor technology. And then, yes, as you say, for athletics, that becomes a big deal, right? Olympians try to track their lactate. They prick their ear in the middle of a run. I touched my headset here, but that's part of the problem with an athlete too. They're out there trying to ride a bike or run, and they're trying to prick their ear to get a measurement of lactate.
Solution, yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So the unique part that we're showing here is we actually took what was our CapSense technology, which is a chipset that enables really, really low current, like sub nanoamp current measurements, and we modified it and optimized it so it could be used with these kinds of sensors that do lactate or glucose. And so those are these enzymatic sensors, very, very low power, and you need picoamps of noise floor on the
Crazy.
analog front end. And we've implemented those, and that's what we're showing with a partner who's doing the lactate sensing. And it's the first time anyone's ever done that continuously. So we'll have people walking around the floor able to show you their glucose and lactate at the same time.
Super cool. All right, next demo is the induction cooktop with voice control, Wi-Fi connectivity, like the whole shebang. And I think, it's easy to roll your eyes around appliances that are connected because everything is these days. But I still feel like you guys are bringing something unique to the table here because, there are some problems. There are some sticky points to the current products out there, around efficiency, around, connectivity. Some of them don't have it. we've seen it, but it's not a standard thing. And, obviously your Wi-Fi chips can make this probably more, democratize it a little more.
Democratize it,
And
yes.
then, the other thing is the CapSense, right? Again, you talked about CapSense a lot here. The ability to sense, pico levels of current and voltages allows you to get extremely precise control of capacitive systems, like
Yes.
the ability to reject water drops from
Water drops or oil drops, exactly. In a cooktop.
So tell us about this prototype induction cooktop.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, for us, this is a reference design. We threw the kitchen sink at it to really show people what's possible. Yeah.
Parampum. That was a good one.
There you go. But so, as you mentioned, we threw all this technology in, but if you look at the fundamental problem that we wanted to address is people. There's kind of a human user interface aspect of a cooktop. I mean, yeah, we've gotten used to we turn a knob and it turns on, but there's a lot of times you're out chopping an onion or whatever you're doing. Your eyes are burning, and all of a sudden the stove starts boiling over, and you're like, what do I do? You mentioned some of the sensors we've put in there, kind of two aspects. So we added voice control. So now you can actually say, hey, dear stovetop, please turn down the power, and it'll do it, right? And then you can keep chopping away. One of the other issues is you want to get a really kind of clean design. We made it a perfectly flat cooktop with capacitive sensing. So you can touch it and you can turn up and down the dial. Now, the problem historically with capacitive sensing is that you have a glove on or you get water splashed on. It doesn't work.
Oil, which is a dirt,
or oil.
Tomato sauce falls on the sensor.
Exactly. And so we've done a lot of work in really pushing the envelope on what capacitive sensing can do so that it kind of ignores those, but still picks up your finger. And that's really the key, because you don't want to splash oil and all of a sudden the power goes up or something along those lines. So it's very nice, clean kind of environment in the sense of just very flat. On the other hand, you get all the control you want and not that disruption. So that's cool. And then the last piece, of course, as you mentioned, we make power. That's a bread and butter for us. So all the IGBTs to bring in the power to do these. I mean, these are 3 kilowatt kind of devices. They're not low power, and having some cutting edge power switches there is a key for hitting the right kind of efficiency targets one would want in an electric system.
Fantastic. Tell us quickly about the last demo, which is the joystick. I think this is fascinating. I worked in video games for a while as a software engineer, and obviously joystick drift was always, something that thankfully the manufacturers had control in their software for, but we sometimes had to add our own in the early days, of extra layer of software to control stuff more accurately. So this is a joystick that has 3D Hall effect sensors and capacitive buttons for the button parts. Obviously, there's haptic feedback, I presume. Tell us a little bit how this works and what the innovation is here, because obviously Hall effect has been used for quite a while on, rotary sensors and stuff like scroll wheels on mice and stuff, or optical sometimes as well. So
yeah, used in automotive, all these things. Yep.
Oh yeah, and you said that some of that technology came from automotive, actually. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think let me just kind of talk about the joystick and the kind of the fundamental issue again we were looking to solve here. Traditional controllers, joysticks, they'll use some sort of a resistive pad where you'll either make a button contact, you'll push and it'll contact the pad and it'll signal as somebody pushed me. Or a joystick, you'll actually have a physical assembly that moves a stylus across the pad. I guess I should not do it this way. It's really the other way. You pull the joystick this way, the stylus goes this way. But it's doing that, and that's how you're actually measuring the position of the joystick. The challenge with these things is they wear out because there's a physical contact and a physical press point, and these things wear out over time. And so that can cause drift. And so what we did is we said, look, can we design, reference design again for a joystick controller that uses absolutely no contact points for those control features. Okay, it still has a physical presence, but the actual contacts are not resistive. And that's where we implemented some of these 3D Hall effect sensors that you mentioned to actually track the joystick, right? So they won't drift, it won't age with life.
They won't
right?
wear, right? That's the other thing.
They don't wear, exactly.
I mean, potentiometers were like the old school way of doing joysticks in the very early days, and obviously, we went to optical sensing, but none of it was ever perfect. And I think I kind of feel like you might have solved the problem here because it's always a challenge with joysticks. Everything one of my friends who has one of those handheld gaming consoles complains about their joysticks drifting.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. So we threw the kitchen sink at that one. Same thing this time. No. Hopefully you don't put your joystick in the kitchen sink, but nonetheless. So yeah, we've got all the latest technology in there. We show off some of our latest Bluetooth and so forth. So it's cool stuff.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, of course, Bluetooth makes sense. It's a big part of joystick tech these days. Tell us quickly a final thought. Where can people see some of the demos? Where can they attend? All that stuff.
Yeah, so I think for attending, I'd say if you're an Infineon customer, reach out to your salesperson, 100%, and they can set you up. That's one method. And then also after the show, we're going to run a demo kind of summary. So we'll do a little bit of a best of
on a website or something.
Yeah, people can grab that. I'll have to send you the actual website that it's going to post at. But if you search, Infineon, OktoberTech, you'll get there for sure. So those are, I think, the two easy avenues. Reach out to your salesperson, or we'll again post some of the keynotes as well as the demos.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to being there soon. And thanks again, Adrian, for being on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll have you on again sometime soon. Cheers.
Awesome. My pleasure. Thanks.
And folks, we're back with Trish Hirschberger. Hi, Trish. How are you?
Hello. I'm so good. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to have you on the show finally. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
It's awesome. So listen, you and I have been talking about some of the devices we are really excited about. And, there's so much news on this show and not too much this week. So I was like, why don't we do an episode where we talk about some of the things that stood out in the last 2-3 months for us? Because there's so much to talk about. Like recapping a year is not going to happen. It's not the end of the year anyway. We're at the edge of a cliff right now with an incredible amount of new phones. I'm really worried about my sanity. I don't know about you, but right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel for friends of mine like yourself that, are trying really to cover most phones and devices that come out because there's just so much out there right now.
It's pretty bad. So what's your first device that you've been playing with lately that'd be like, I'm into this, and, whatever the reasons might be?
Well, I've got a few of them right now, but I would say the first one that I want to shout out is the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL.
Yep.
Is the new phone I've now been using for, I want to say maybe 2 to 3 weeks I've had it. So it hasn't been, yay! So is that the Fold or the XL
that's the
that
fold.
you have there?
That's
you
the
have
fold.
the Fold.
I have the XL.
I have the
yeah,
XL.
You've got the XL. I've got the XL somewhere in a drawer. I this year decided to go Fold all the way for myself.
Okay, wait. I wanna hear about that
no,
decision.
No.
What made you decide all Fold?
Okay, well, it's a long story. I want to hear your story about the 9 because I those two phones to me are kind of interchangeable. It's kind of weird to say that because the price is different and of course the experience is different. But I've been a Pro user all this time. So I did Nexus and went on to Pixel. I've used the big phones every time. So obviously, I'd love to hear your reasons why why you're excited about this phone, because maybe you're not a Pixel user from day one like me.
Oh, I am. I've been Team Pixel for a long time. I'm Team Android, Team Pixel, all the way. And I do also like the bigger phones. I like having the bigger screen, but interestingly enough, have not made the leap to the foldable phones. I don't know if it's because I feel like they're just a bit too thick in the pocket. I don't know. But I'm also not really a tablet user. So having something that kind of hybrids as my phone and my tablet isn't a need that I need to fulfill. I like to walk around with my gaming laptop and my phone. Those are my two devices that are on me like all the time. Gaming laptop, phone. And so the Pixel 9 Pro XL has been really doing it for me in terms of all the content I capture on the go. I like that they really paid attention to the front-facing camera because I am someone that captures content with the front-facing camera. I know that's kind of a no-no in the tech world.
No,
everybody's
this is fine. No.
But everybody
How
says,
else are you gonna do
turn
it?
it around, use the rear camera because that's the better camera. And I'm like, okay, but then I can't line up the shot. And my photography skills are not great enough to just point and click and hope that it gets the composition I want it to get. Like I need to, you need to find the angles, you need to figure out what you want the shot to look like. And so I do appreciate that about the folds, that you can do that rear view, that director's view on the foldable devices. But yeah, I haven't made the leap to the foldables.
You, I think, are exactly where I was at a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it might come. And also it's interesting because my two things I carry the slimmest, lightest, most powerful, best battery life device I can carry, which for me right now is a MacBook Air. And I carry it's the most powerful Android phone I can. And I don't use tablets either. So we have so many parallels. The big difference is that while I worked in video games for 20 years, mostly consoles, and not portables because that's a while back. But I don't game much, and not because I don't like it. If I got down that rabbit hole, I would. Like I already don't have enough time, but if I went down the gaming rabbit hole, I'd be screwed.
Oh, so, Miriam, there's so many games out right now too. You would be done.
So I have decided to watch from a distance and enjoy. I watch a lot of gaming stuff on YouTube, and I really love it. But it's not like so I don't need a gaming laptop. So obviously but I understand the appeal and need for gaming laptops. So kudos to you for having that combo, because I can kind of relate, except for me, it's more about like being able to be on the go and do anything on like, a machine that's ultra versatile. And it's not just, Mac. I mean, I love Mac OS because it's close to Unix and Unix, Linux, all that stuff. For me, I've kind of grew up with that stuff. So I love it. Having a command line and doing weird stuff randomly. Like the other day, people like, why is it that when I download a zip file from Apple Press Room or whatever, the media site, it's a zip file, and then I undo the zip and I try to and I pull the JPEG out and I put it in like a giant folder full of like my desktop or something, and I can't find it because it's not dated the same as the zip file I just downloaded. Yeah, because they created the file 2 weeks ago. So you know what I do? I just go in the command line and I touch the file, which is a command that just resets the date and time. And so then I can find it because it's today's date and time. Like it's going to be at the top of my list. So stuff like that. I'm a total nerd. So anyway, all this to say that I do use Windows. Now that Windows has a lot of the Unix, Linux extensions and stuff that you can add. But, we'll talk about one of my favorite Windows laptops in a bit. I think that might be a good thing. But 9 Pro XL.
Yes.
You are talking about the front camera. Of course, it's great because they've really improved it this year. But how do you feel about the rest of the phone? Obviously, you've been using Pixels for a while. So you kind of are like me. You love the experience, right? You love the software. Yes. You love but is there something that you feel they've nailed even better? I think to me, the hardware this year all around is just outstanding. It's like a step up. It's like, you remember when we went to the 6 series and everything just like, wow, we were just kind of blown away, right? Like finally a Pixel that's like competitive, and then except for maybe the processor and the heat and stuff, and that's still a bit of an issue. I think. I mean, it's better, but it's not where they shine. But at the same time, I feel like the hardware is great. Do you feel that way too? Do you love the cameras as well in the rear? Do you use them for content capture at all?
I definitely do. And I've been playing around with them a lot more. And I think some of the AI features that they continue adding into the photography and videography experience are really nice. I was just at a spooky Halloween skeleton, late night light up thing. And I was able to capture some cool videos using Video Night Sight, for example. And the video looked really good, and I could eliminate background noise, and I could do all that on my phone, which, it doesn't compare to being able to do it in a major editing program. Right. However, to do it on the go for social media is really quite nice to have it there in the moment. So I've been really enjoying it. As far as the power for games, it's been better than I anticipated. I feel like usually the Pixel is not the number one on the market if we're going to talk about mobile gaming, but it's been pretty great. And also, we've had you mentioned the heat concerns. We've had thermal concerns with the Pixel line in the past, of course. And it's over 100 degrees right now where I live in Southern California. But so far, I have not experienced the same thermal issues that I have on previous Pixels. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, it's better, right?
It's better. So far. We'll see what happens. I haven't taken it on a full beach day yet or anything like that, but we'll see how it does.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I can relate to a lot of what you're talking about. I feel like for me, I started with the 9 Pro XL. I got that first because they had fewer of the Pixel foldy phones to send out this year, the PR folks. So they gave me the kind of early access, not early, but not under embargo, but right after they launched them kind of access. And so I played with that for a while and it was like, okay, so this is coming from an 8 Pro where I was, it was like, okay, this is an update. I like it. I dig it. I've talked about this on the show before. I feel like my only gripes with this phone, as you talked about, the thermals, the processor, all that stuff is real. And I really hope like maybe next year with the G5 or whatever, when Google's kind of slowly tearing themselves away from the Samsung dependency with their own chips completely from scratch and TSMC manufactures them instead, that we're going to see like some maybe more parity with the competition. But the experience balances it out so well. And now that they've nailed the hardware, now that the hardware is just like, oh my God, it's so good, right? I'm like, okay, so we're in business. And I was hesitant by the hardware originally. Like I love the new visor, but I'm a bit annoyed, and this is happening in China too with Chinese phones. I'm a bit annoyed that every phone is looking like an iPhone from the front.
I was gonna say that.
Like, and when I first saw the renders and the leaks of the Pixel, I was like, well, you gotta be kidding me. Come on, no. Like I want something that looks different, but I guess that's where everybody wants to be. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I used to be a no case ever kind of gal. I used to just wing it with no case because I like the look of the phones themselves. But lately I've started using a phone case that has just enough room in it for my ID and my credit card.
Oh, cool. Look at that.
And so I keep that in my phone. And then I have like a little, not a lanyard, but like a little piece of jewelry almost that I wear on the side that can hold this. And then I can leave my house without a purse. And it's delightful. So I've started doing that. But now that I put the case on it, it kind of doesn't look like an iPhone anymore. You know what I mean? Like now it's got more rounded edges and looks more similar to the Pixel 8 Pro.
Yeah. For those of you on Patreon watching the video version, you can see what Trish was doing there. It's pretty cool. That's a very, very nice case. I love it. Oh, look at that. We're getting a demo. Hand model.
Slides out and you put it has enough room for exactly 2 cards.
Sweet.
And then you slide it right back. But I like it because it doesn't have like a zipper or, some of those like purse phone cases that are out now. They're too bulky. I don't like them. I still want to be able to throw it in a pocket.
Do you use wireless charging? Because obviously that's going to be a problem now, right?
No, I do. I use wireless charging all the time. And as long as I don't have cards in it, it still is fine.
It still charges.
It still charges just fine. Yep.
Right on. Well, good. So, I think you can't go wrong with this phone. If you're coming from any Android or Pixel, I think that like this is the first year where I can literally tell people, maybe you shouldn't buy a Galaxy. Like in the past, I was like, there are some things that Samsung does better. Maybe not. Maybe coming from Samsung, you're used to that One UI, which I don't like, that One UI experience.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I don't care for One UI and I can't live without call screening. So that takes Samsung out for me.
This is a journalist thing, like call screening, the wait and the hold for me stuff. And like, when you run a business, unfortunately, phone calls are still a thing. And you still end up having to call the bank or do whatever. And you're on hold or whatever. And these things just make such a difference, right? So yeah, that's a lot of it for me. And also it's just the whole experience, the whole cohesive, I've always thought, and the reason I started with, the G1 originally, the T-Mobile G1, which wasn't an Android experience. It was the first whatever Android gave, Google gave Android to an OEM HTC who made a phone, and they did the best they could with what was available. And then I went to the Droid, which was the second best, basically, And then from then I got the Nexus One, and the Nexus One I immediately felt like that. Oh, okay, so this is what happens when Google is taking their stuff and integrating it, like that vertical integration that Apple has nailed for years now. That was the beginning, and I think with Nexus it wasn't quite there. Like they still wanted to stay kind of open source pure, but I think then when Pixel came out, they went, hey, why don't we do what all these OEMs are doing, where they flavor Android, but we do the Google flavor, and we maybe show them the way. We've shown them the way how to do good software and good hardware together. Let's show them the way on how to do a good experience on top of that hardware and software.
Yes.
And I feel like nobody's managed to follow suit. And I think that's why I'm like, I sometimes feel like it's Stockholm syndrome. I'm like a Pixel gal forever, right? Like I have to stick with Pixel. I'm like, I'm happy. They treat me well. I'm good, but yeah, it's tough because sometimes, I see a lot of hardware from China. I review a lot of Chinese phones. And I'm like, whoa, like some of the hardware is just exquisite. But then this, the software varies quite wildly. It's gotten way better in China too. Like there used to be a time when Oppo and Vivo and Xiaomi weren't like very palatable in terms of OS experience. And now you're like, I can pick one up and feel like, okay, I could live with this,
Well, and Miriam, I always love chatting with you about this too, because I don't get hands-on a lot of the more international devices. I really only get to see the flagships that are popular here in the US.
Right.
So hearing your opinion on the Xiaomi phones and the phones that I don't get to see is really cool. So you said the software has been getting to be a more
better.
premium experience. Okay.
Yeah, it's really good actually. I think the problem is that they try to copy the iPhone too much. Like so because in China there is the iPhone is really big and obviously slightly changed from what we experience because there's a lot more control from the Chinese government. Apple gives them a lot of control.
Sure.
So there are some things they don't get access to, but like some apps and some services obviously. But then at the same time like how one of the things on the iPhone that, since iPhone 10 is that if you swipe from the top left, you get notifications. The top right, you get the control center, right? So they do that on Chinese phones, on Android. And in fact, there is rumors that Google's going to make that the default. And of course, on Pixels and stuff, we'll get an option to turn that off for a few years until people get used to it. In the same way as now everybody's on gestures, and Apple really kind of started that with iPhone 10, right? Like it took me a long time to switch to gestures. I was hardcore on my arrows, and like to me, arrow on the left, like the Samsung arrow on the right. Like it's another reason I've always been cranky about Samsung. Like little things, right? Like arrow on the right. Why?
Yes. Yeah.
So so I think we'll see, but there's rumors that they're going to change that, and I hate the idea because to me it's like the beauty of being able to swipe from the top, no matter where, and get both my quick settings and my notifications is kind of like what I want. But I'd love to see something that were like those AI notification summaries that Apple introduced in Google, in Pixel, because then imagine I could pull down my shade and I get just the basic quick settings and then the basic notification summaries on one screen. No scrolling. That's kind of where my holy grail would be. But I don't want them separate. I don't want to have to like worry about like the other thing that a lot of Chinese phones do is if you want to swipe away a notification, you can't do it from the left or the right. It's either the left or the right, depending on the OS. And it's just like, what the hell were you thinking? And I'm like you're breaking Android, you're breaking my user like patterns,
That also really plays into when you have a larger phone like the Fold or like the Pro XL and you have small hands. I don't want to have to think about which side of the top I'm swiping from.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like my thumb only reaches the one side if I'm holding the phone.
So, I will see how it goes. But these are the things I see with Chinese phones that, and of course, then Samsung's doing kind of their own thing. I'm not a big fan of One UI, but at least it's closer to Android, like the Pixel Android, in terms of like if you turn on gestures and everything. The notifications still work the same way. The quick settings look different, but they're mostly the same. So I don't know. I feel like it's been comfortable for me to be in Pixel land. So that brings me to kind of what I was going to tell you about how I got into the foldable stuff.
Yes.
So immediately I was attracted by the flip style foldable. Like as soon as Samsung did their thing, I was like, Moto did their thing first with the first Razr, which was kind of flawed. But I was like, oh, that's cool. But they kind of broke the internet with that one. Kind of like the original Fold, book style from Samsung also broke the internet because it didn't work very well. So anyway, let's ignore those two because they're kind of beta products in my mind. But like I think that the flip that Samsung did during COVID, like first year 2020, was like, oh wow, okay, this is where we're going, cool. And I was on board right away. Because I like the idea of like, you have something compact, you have it in your pocket, maybe it's a little thicker, but it just, protects the screen and then you open it up and it's really cool. And the user experience is not really that different. Like, what I'm saying? You get benefits from the camera folding, being its own tripod, as you said, like selfies, but because you have that small screen you can see, but overall, the big, once you open it up, it's just a normal phone. Like there's nothing, you don't have to think about multitasking, about splitting the screen, about doing kind of weird gymnastics to run multiple apps, right? So then the Fold came out, the Fold 2 from Samsung, and I actually bought one and returned it because I was like, I might want to do this. And I tried it and I was just, I think what Samsung kind of rooted for me because of the form factor, the tall and skinny thing, the front screen not being really usable in that sense. And then when I opened it, I was like, what do I do with this? I have a giant canvas. Great. It looks good. Oh my, the screen's amazing. But half of the apps would not load properly. Like I have to rotate the phone around. And then, like the multitasking has always been, even though it's been on normal non-folding phones from Samsung, it's been super difficult to remember how to do it. Like, Samsung complexity for the sake of complexity sometimes is what I feel like they're into a whole One UI experience is like. And it's gotten better to be fair, but I think that it's still quite a little cumbersome to do multitasking on a Samsung phone, no matter whether it's fold or not.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, I get it. And all, Michael Fisher, all my friends who are really gung-ho, they're like, Miriam, come on, when are you going to make the jump? Like, this is the future. And I'm like, I get it, but I'm not there. I can't. And then the OnePlus Open happened last year. And it wasn't the first Chinese folding phones that I experienced, like book style. It was the first available that I knew would work properly, be supported properly by the carriers. And so I made it kind of like my second phone always with me, which is rare because I always have a lot of phones with me, as you know, but they're generally review units. Like I have my Pixel in one pocket, and then I've got a bunch of review units that I cycle through. And then with this case, I went to, Pixel 8 Pro in one pocket, OnePlus Open in the other for almost an entire year, 9-10 months. And I was literally switching between them. Anytime I had to be super productive, it was the Fold that came out. And every time I had to be like just casual or photography or, all the stuff I can do on my own SIM, like text messaging, all that stuff that needs to happen on my own SIM, it was the Pixel. And it was a good life. But then I was like, what if I could have both, Trish? What if I could have both? Come on. So Pixel Fold last year, I played with it a bit, but it felt kind of like the first Fold from Samsung and the initial Moto Razr. I was having played with a lot of folding phones. I was like, I'm concerned that this in my pocket for 9 months a year will not survive. And also screen brightness issues, reflectivity, like super reflective main screen was not my cup of tea. Everything else, and also Tensor G2, so like the thing was just a heating element in my pocket at all times. Like I went to South Korea for the Samsung Fold 5 and Flip 5 launch.
Yes.
And I had the Pixel Fold, the original, with me. And that was like the phone, I was like, I'm going to review this phone. And I thought it was going to explode in my hand. It was so hot. No, like it's 100 degrees out. It's 110, whatever, and humid as F, right? Because it's like, it's
was
Korea.
there. I was there for that
so
launch.
So imagine
I'm
holding this thing and it's literally warmer than the air. And I'm like, when is the battery going to give up and just go poof in my hand? Like it was brutal. And I was like, I get it's an exceptional situation, but I didn't feel confident this phone would last. I loved it though. I was like, this is it. I love it. The form factor, I really like the Passport. But then the Open came along and I was like, aha, so this is how you make a folding phone that is actually for Miriam. And so I love that thing. And I've always been a big fan of OnePlus. I love their phones. If I had to go, like the only time I went away from Pixel was with a OnePlus 8 Pro because it was the first OnePlus with wireless charging. And anybody who knows me knows that there are two things any phone that I have must have: wireless charging and OIS on the camera. Of course, now that OIS on the camera is very common even on cheaper phones. Yes. But wireless charging, especially on Chinese phones, still kind of rare.
Is it? I can't live without wireless charging, so that would be a deal breaker for me.
It's interesting, like in North America, our tendency is to have slow-ish wired charging. I mean, 45 even is not that fast in the great scheme of things, even though that's kind of finally where we're at with like the Galaxies, and then, 37 watt on the XL that you have. And again, these are peak speeds, so they're only happening like for 10% of the battery charge, right? Whereas like the Chinese are doing 100 watts on all their flagships now, standard. And it's continuous 100 watt. Like you charge them 20 minutes, you're done. 18 minutes, you're done, 0 to 100. So if you're partially charging, like say you're at 20%, you're going to the club, partying, whatever, you need to take a shower. You take a shower for 10, 12 minutes. You come back, you're from 20%, you're at 80, right?
Amazing.
Like it's amazing. It's great. So, and they do up to 240 watt. There's 240 watt now, 9 minutes, 0 to 100.
Wow.
And the phone doesn't even get hot.
That's out of control.
Yeah, you know, like what kind of like voodoo magic are they using? Anyway, the point is it's happening. And so even like even cheap Chinese phones, I'm talking like $200, like, you know, the CMF phone 1, right? It's not Chinese, but nothing is primarily, you know, their phones are made in China and engineered in London and Sweden, but you know, they're kind of like OnePlus. You know, Capei came from there. Right?
Okay.
All his supply chain, all the manufacturing, all that. And so, you know, that phone isn't very fast. I think but like isn't very fast. Are you ready? 33 watts. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't know if this is the exact number. My point is that it's very common for Chinese phones in like the budget $200 to $300 mark to be 68 watt, like 50 watt. Like you're like, oh, this is, but none of them have wireless charging. You have to go to the flagships to get one. Like you have to spend $1,000 on like the best phone, and that's even the Open doesn't have wireless charging because they're like, well, you know, it'd be thicker, and we're like, who uses that? It has what is 67 watt wired charging. You can charge a OnePlus Open in 20 minutes. What are you complaining about? So
I have wireless charging, like little pads all
over
everywhere. My house.
Me too. Yeah,
because it's just so much easier than trying to like fiddle with a USB or I don't know. No wireless charging and no waterproofing would be a deal breaker for me. Yeah. I like to read in the bathtub. I like to go to the beach. I need it. I need my phone to be able to withstand my lifestyle.
The big news is that they're changing that. It's starting to proliferate downwards in the Chinese phone, the wireless charging, but you're not losing the fast wired charging either. So also when the Chinese do wireless charging, generally it's 50 watt. They don't like wireless. So like you need a special pad, but like the pad has a fan built in and they just like, so that's the problem. I have a whole bunch of pads all over the house. And like on my desk here, I have a Pixel pad, but on my, behind me over there and on that shelf, I have a OnePlus pad, and the OnePlus pad does 50 watt wireless. But only on Oppo, OnePlus, any VOOC device, right? So that has wireless charging. So, and then I have a Xiaomi pad somewhere but it only does fast charging on the Xiaomi. It works on slow charging, like 15 watt Qi everywhere. But if you want the fast charging, like now it's kind of like you have to find the right brick. You have to find the right. So like ideally what I need is like a wall of wireless chargers. Like, okay, Xiaomi, Honor.
Just label them.
Yeah, no, but it's ridiculous. Like that's the problem with the Chinese, that they don't have intercompatibility, right? You can do PD. The nice thing is they can all do PD up to 30 watt, more or less. Both the charging bricks and the phones. Okay. So at least if you want to get back to US kind of speeds, you can grab any Chinese phone, plug it into like a MacBook charging brick and get 30 watt. Or you can take, a Xiaomi charging brick, and if it's like says 100 watt on it, and plug it into your MacBook and get your 35 watt. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like at least they have PD to kind of hold you over, but it's like kind of icky. I wish that everybody could get along. I think the Chinese should all get together and go, okay, PD doesn't really work for us. Works great for laptops, but it doesn't really work for phones up higher than like 45 watt or so, because their technologies are actually much more efficient. A lot of the charging circuits get moved to the brick, which cools the phone down while it's charging. So for that, you need a standard. And I think that's the thing that we're going to start seeing come to the next, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, or 5 years probably, we'll get some sort of super high speed charging standard that's like PD, but specifically for phones, and all the Chinese will adopt it. It'll probably come out of China too. So it's possible that we will like go and block it here for some reason or another, but that would suck. Hopefully Qualcomm and MediaTek can jump on board and support it. That way, we can justify having it or something. And same with wireless charging. Like I don't know if we can get higher than 15, 20 watt, which is what we have now, through the regular Qi 2. Like I'd love to see a standard for 50 watt that everybody uses, because again, right now everybody's got their own thing. It's so frustrating.
Yep, I would love them to all play nice together. I agree.
So yeah. So anyway, so then the OnePlus Open was like the gateway.
Okay.
Right. And so I was like, next year if they make a Pixel Fold 2, which we all thought was going to be the name, right? I think I might jump on that, and so I did, and so now I'm like, I got the best of both worlds until it breaks.
Until it breaks.
I shouldn't say that, because I don't want people to think it's fragile. It doesn't feel fragile. It's actually really well made. It's really nice, right? It's just, it's just like, I've played with enough folding phones that like, the problem is that this is actually the mint green case from Google on
Nice.
the black phone, because I wanted the silver
Oh.
white phone, the porcelain, but they didn't actually give me the porcelain reviewing it. I didn't have a choice. So when they're
Okay.
like, what could go well with black? And I was like, mint green. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did mint green, and
I like it. It looks
here we are.
cool.
It's good, right? And I'm very minimalist. I like to have nothing on my screens, as you can see. Like it's like there's 5 apps, 6 apps. I've got calls, messages, Play Store, Chrome, camera, and that's it.
Oh, I'm jealous. My homepage is like folders and widgets, and I've got all sorts of stuff going on there, but it's because I swipe open and have everything at a glance in front of me.
I think for me, it's because I change phones so often. I was like, I'll stay everything at the default and adapt, And then eventually that didn't work anymore because it was still too much work to adapt. So I was like, let's standardize to like, what's the minimum set of apps I need? And then make sure the app tray is alphabetic, and I'm good.
Nice.
I'm very visual. So for me, it's by icon. Like when Instagram changed their icon for like a month, I was lost. Like I couldn't find.
I think a lot of us felt that way, to be honest.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh times. All right. Anyway, let's move to another device.
Okay. I've got the headset I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, please
It's
talk
brand
about
new.
it.
So this is brand new. It's the Alienware Pro headset. It's not even out yet. I think maybe by the time people are listening to this,
Sunday?
it will be announced. So it's announced, but like you can't order it anywhere yet.
Okay,
It'll be
got
on
it.
Dell.com. But yes, this is the new Alienware Pro headset, and I'm
It
one of
looks
the
fantastic.
first few people to have it, which is cool. But yeah, it's just really, it's been co-designed with esports professionals to be like the very, very top of the line for competitive gaming in a headset. I do like that, like the look of it is a little more traditional audio headset than gaming headset, I feel like. And it does have a detachable mic if you want to use the mic, with 2 mic noise cancellation. So it's like everything is top of the line. They've got 50 millimeter graphene coated drivers. They've got tri-mode connectivity. They're
Cool.
super comfortable.
They look great on you too.
Yeah, they're nice, right? The last headset I had from Alienware was a tri-mode connectivity that also had active noise cancellation. But they were a little big for my head. I feel like there's a greater range of movement in this new headset as far as how big it can go and how small it can go. And I'm hobbit-sized, Miriam. So, I need almost like a child's gaming headset. So it's great that I can actually make this fit my head. And it doesn't look too bulky. It doesn't look like I'm wearing a motorcycle helmet. And the ear cups are just so soft. As someone that wears glasses all the time,
Mm-hmm.
you know this pain. You don't want to wear a headset for 6 hours that is just going to push your glasses into your temples. That is so uncomfortable. But really just how comfortable this headset is. And I've only had a couple chances to mess around with the active noise cancellation, but so far really good. My only gripe, if I had to give a gripe about this headset, is that the ear cups don't rotate all the way flat.
Oh, okay.
So I can't slide the headset as easily into a bag to take it with me, say on an airplane or something. But that is my only gripe thus far. So I'm like, this headset will be my like stay at home battle station streaming headset. And then I'll take the one, the tri-mode connectivity that flips in. That'll be my airplane headset. And that's how I think I'll have to do it.
Right on. I love it. I did not think that was a gaming. I mean, I knew you told me about it, so I kind of knew it was coming. But like visually at first, I was like, this is too small to be a gaming headset. Because a gaming headset's like, this is not a pair of game. This is a wired, good old school, open, bigger dynamic studio headphones. But they're really big. Like my head is gigantic, so they don't look that big. But my point is, this on you would look like a gaming headset normally would look on you, right? These freaking huge things that are like clamping your head.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is great. And of course, if you want to take it on a plane, it has ANC and all that stuff, right?
Oh, yes. It has
Okay.
ANC. And I mean, when I say like my biggest favorite point about these is the tri-mode connectivity. So it comes with a wireless dongle. It also has Bluetooth connectivity, and you can do it wired.
Of course.
So at home, I use the wireless dongle in my at-home desktop.
For like the
and
lowest latency possible, right?
Right. And then I Bluetooth when I'm on the go, like when I have my gaming laptop, or even if I'm, using a Nintendo Switch or something like that on an airplane, Bluetooth on the go. And then wired, the only time I ever really wired it is if Like if I have no other option, or maybe it's like, you're watching a movie on the back of the airplane seat in front of you and they have a 3.5 millimeter jack. Like sometimes you need that. Also, my son is 7 and like his kid's tablet doesn't have Bluetooth connectivity. So there have been times where he has forgotten his headset and he has like a little dude headset and he forgets his. And I'm like, all right, well now you get to use mommy's really nice headset. Here you go. And I have to plug it in.
Headset. I love it.
Yeah, he has a little dude headset.
What's the little dude headset? Like who makes it?
J-Lab has a whole line called J-Buddies.
I think I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, the J-Buddies headsets are specifically made so when they fold up and unfold, they can't pinch little fingers. Like the hinges are specifically non-pinching and they're decibel limiting. Yeah, so the kids can't accidentally,
hurt themselves,
blow out their eardrums.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Trying to listen too loud. But yeah, J-Buddies makes great ones for kids and they're very affordable too.
You have me also confused by which tablet doesn't have Bluetooth?
The Kindle Fire tablets, or I guess they're just called the Fire tablets now.
Oh, wow. They have
kids'
no Bluetooth.
Fire tablets don't
usually. Oh, the kids' ones. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's the kids' Fire tablets don't typically offer Bluetooth. I'm like second guessing. I'm like, do the latest generation of them do? But usually when you go from like the kids' Fire tablet to the kids' Fire tablet Pro, the difference is in your RAM and your internal storage, not in other features from what I've seen over the years.
Right, makes sense.
But yeah, we do a Fire tablet for my son because the parental dashboard, the Amazon parental dashboard is like a micromanager's dream. So any parent that really wants to have full control over what and when your children can access, that Amazon parent dashboard is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
so what else did you look at recently?
Oh man, so much stuff. I mean, the thing is, I always give my audience like a little itty bit of something, when I've got it. Like the latest phones I played with are from Xiaomi, the 14T Pro and the Xiaomi Mix Flip. And I've already talked about those on previous podcasts. So I'm kind of going back to the list I gave you are the things that really stood out for me. So for you it's a 9 Pro XL, but I think to me the 9 Pro Fold, they're just as good. Like I think if you don't want the folding phone, the XL is, or the small one for that matter, if you don't want something more size friendly, those you can't go wrong. And I think the drawback of having this fold here is that you lose some of the camera quality, but it's very minor. I think it's in low light, you notice it with the telephoto. And maybe the ultra wide also. Like low light, ultra wide, and telephoto just don't live up to. But they're similar to the Pixel 8a, which is fine. Like it's still way better than many phones, right?
Yeah.
So those two have obviously been high on my list of like happiness. I'm trying to think. Most recently, I just got to play with the X-Real Beam Pro with the X-Real Air 2.
Oh, how was that? Glasses. I haven't tried those yet.
Yeah, those AR glasses are really great. I am impressed in the sense that, so I need to wear glasses. So obviously I have to put them on top of my glasses because I need to get a prescription. There is a little insert you can send it in to get, to get fitted with your prescription, and that's
cool.
It's about $250. The glasses are about $400 and something, so it gets a little expensive there. But I haven't done it simply because I want to know that I'm going to commit to an ecosystem so I can continue using the same prescription insert in multiple products, right? So we'll see how that goes. But right now I'm a little like, I don't want to spend that kind of money on a review unit that I'm not sure I'm going to use. But putting them on top, I have to say the clarity is incredible. The brightness is solid. I haven't tried Vision Pro really, so I don't know, but it seems to me that it could handily compete with it in terms of just display quality. And then field of view too is pretty good. Like it's not like 70 degrees, but it's like 40 something. And so you still get to see the whole screen, even with my glasses on, where it actually kind of shrinks the field of view a little bit.
Yes.
Overall, they're light. They don't have any batteries in them or anything. You need to plug them in, right? That's the drop. They're just a display. And you can plug them into any USB-C port and they'll work. Like, so your MacBook, plug them in, you get a display. Like, there's nothing to it because you don't get any stereo stuff, nothing. You just get a display. But they're pretty high res, 1080p per eye, pretty bright, and they refresh at 120 hertz. So they don't flicker, which is really nice. And they can be driven by any phone that can drive a display or by USB-C or any tablet, laptop desktop, anything that can drive a display via USB-C. So my MacBook, I plugged it in, it mirrored the screen instantly, and boom, I was in business.
Cool.
In fact, it mirrored the screen at a higher resolution than my native Mac screen. Like by default, I could scale it to whatever I want. But I was like, whoa, okay. So that's cool. And then, so that's the glasses. But the Beam Pro looks like a smartphone. It's $200. It essentially is a cheap smartphone without 5G, kind of like that e-reader that everybody's going crazy about. You know that, what is it called? There's like an e-reader that everybody loves that is like an e-paper display, but it's a smartphone, Android, and it doesn't have a 5G connectivity. So people, I can't remember what it's called now.
I haven't heard of that yet.
Like everybody, all the tech journalists that went crazy for it in the spring. And then there was like this moment of like fame. Anyway, so the Beam Pro, essentially, think of a cheapish Chinese smartphone, plastic build, LCD instead of OLED. So it's like, I think it's a 90 hertz LCD, 1080p, 6.5 inch. So it's a big thing.
Okay.
But it's not like, you see a lot of bezels, a lot of like, it's got a little chin, and it's got a Snapdragon 6 Gen 1, nothing crazy in there, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, or 8 gigs of RAM and 256 for $50 more, $250 instead of $200. You get micro SD, so you can add micro SD support, put like a 512 gig thing in there and you'd be good to go.
Love that.
So that's nice. Front camera, and in the rear it has two 50 megapixel JN1 sensors, which is a decent Samsung sensor, and it allows you to capture stereo, like the iPhone does for Vision Pro, stereo 3D photos and 3D video at 1080p, and that you can play back on the. So that's a cool thing. You can take photos with the camera built into Beam Pro and videos, and not only they work on normal phones to play back, but of course they're 2D. As soon as you put them on your extra glasses, you plug your extra glasses into the thing, they pop up in 3D, and it's really great. It's like cool. A cheap person's Vision Pro is what this thing is.
Yeah, or like the Quest 3. I don't know if you played with the Quest 3, but
you can see through, which is good. So they give you a thing you can put over the glasses to make it opaque, like just black, and then you still have peripheral light, right? But it's still bright enough that it doesn't bother you. And then if you remove that, you can see through. But there's sunglasses when you remove, so they do tint the world outside a little darker, so you can still see your surroundings, kind of like the pass-through mode in Vision Pro. And it's really cool for $400 for the glasses, $200-ish for the Beam Pro. You don't need the Beam Pro, but ideally if you want to have that interface where the launcher, where it shows you all your Android apps, like your Netflix and your YouTube and stuff, and then you can use the Beam Pro as a remote. It has like the screen becomes a touchpad, and it has like inertial, like it knows where your hand is. So your cursor in the glasses show you what you're selecting, and you tap on the screen to select.
Nice.
So like when you plug the glasses in, it turns into a different UI in the glasses, and the Beam Pro becomes a remote. When you unplug it, it's just an Android phone, and you can use it for doing these 3D photos, right, and videos, which is cool. And all that for $200. And here's a killer. It has two USB-C ports. One for charging and one for the glasses.
Wait, let's hear it for that.
So you don't have to worry about, like, if you run out of battery, it's got like a 4,300 milliamp hour battery or something that charges at like 30 watt. But if you want to run out of batteries and you want a bigger pack attached to it, you can tape a big pack to the back of it or something. And then you're in business like for an entire flight or something, right? Because the glasses aren't powered, they need juice. So obviously, if you're using the thing to play back Netflix, this thing has a remote on it. So the screen is on the Beam Pro. The screen is on the glasses. You're probably going to go through that battery in maybe 5 hours or something. So if you want an external battery, you can still plug it in. Very clever. And honestly, I think that for first gen, like the glasses are not, but for that product that has the camera, acts as an Android device. The nice thing about it acting as an Android device is that you can configure all the apps. Like you can log into your Netflix. You can set up your favorite streaming, you can install your clients for all the different streaming services, like you can put your favorite chat app on there, and it's all done like a normal Android phone. So you don't have to do it all on the glasses. But then as soon as you plug it in, all those apps are available on the glasses. So now you can have, your Twitch stream. You can have, and you can use the keyboard on the Beam Pro to type and message your friends while you're watching on the glasses, the stream, like stuff like that. So it's very cool. And your phone is still in your pocket doing something else. So you're not wasting your phone's battery. I really think they're onto something. I just wish that I didn't have to like get the prescription insert, because I feel like that's kind of a must-have if you want the best experience. And I'm not sure I'm willing to spend $259 in taxes to get my prescription filled for a pair of glasses that costs $450 that is already on a year old, so it's probably going to get updated, and hopefully they keep the same inserts, but I don't know if they will, and then if I spend that kind of money, then I'm kind of stuck with Nreal. If I feel like I need to stay with them, and that's going to be the big problem with AR glasses. I think we're getting close to getting something really exciting, especially with Meta last week, right? The Orion stuff we talked about on the show like 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. Like, I think we're getting but we are all going to have this major issue that accessibility is going to be a big problem for these devices, because anybody can pick up a phone like the CMF Phone 1, the best $200 phone I've ever used. Amazing. The only thing it's missing is NFC, which, because it's not for the US market, but like, it's incredible. It's like better than it's all, in terms of specs, it's about the same as an iPhone 16. Like,
wow. Okay.
Wow. And it's incredible. And then, but at the same time, like, you can pick that up for $200 and use it, right? But you cannot pick up these glasses without, this is not a solution to glasses. Like,
it's
not. So then 200, like, if it was $50 to get your prescription filled, I'd be like, okay, that can, you spend $400 on the glasses, $50 more, it's manageable. Maybe $100 even, but $259 plus tax, like, come on, and I know. It's not X-Real's fault. Like, this is the whole optical industry of, like they need to make their money. I get it, but it's just like what the industry needs to do, in the same way as we were talking about standardizing fast wireless charging and standardizing fast wire charging on phones. I think the industry needs to come together and say, let's make an insert that's universal for all AR glasses going forward, that everybody adopts, Apple, Google, everyone. Because, and I don't know if this is something the EU can regulate, but this is kind of, I hate government regulation, and I hate when, innovation is stifled by regulation. But at the same time, there are times when this needs to happen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat with the Meta Ray-Bans. I don't know if I want to order a prescription pair or not. I mean, I like them, but again, I've maybe used them half a dozen to a dozen times in the review unit that was sent to me. I don't know if that's worth me spending hundreds of dollars to get a prescription version.
Exactly.
I don't know. But I need to see. I can't really see otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's why I like things like, the like, if I'm going to talk about the Meta Quest 3, I can wear that over my glasses very easily, and it's not uncomfortable. So I'm like, there we go. That's my solution for right now. And the Quest 3 does some pretty good pass-through mode as well.
Right.
And I want to say that's what, $499 at retail. So compared to Vision Pro, that's a big savings.
And they have the Quest 3S or whatever, the new one, which is even cheaper, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Yeah. So look, I think this is one of those surprises. Like, I've took a while for me to get a review unit. I pestered them quite a while, and they finally sent me the stuff. And thanks for doing that, Ralph at X-Real. Appreciate you. But I'm just saying, like, it was one of those, like, if I could get over this prescription problem, I would like say 100% this is the way to go. Okay. The Beam Pro unit needs to be more powerful, I think, because Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 like gets a little sluggish at times. Mm-hmm. Maybe they can make software for your smartphone. Like maybe they can make an adapter box that your smartphone plugs into, or magnetically plugs into your MagSafe in the back. Like if you have a MagSafe case, that for us Android people, that has an app running on the phone, gives you the extra battery life of the MagSafe in the back, and lets the glasses connect directly to the little puck, so that you free up your USB port on your phone. You know what I'm saying? Like imagine some kind of extra hardware that costs like $100 that has a battery in it, that has a USB-C connector for the glasses, and that then it's running on software on your Pixel. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, it removes the whole benefit of having the Pixel in your pocket as a separate device. But then you have the horsepower of the Pixel or the Galaxy S24 or whatever you're using that's more powerful than this Beam Pro 6 Gen 1 thing, right? Like I think that would be kind of like another thing that they need to look into. And also it would reduce the price of entry, because the glasses are already $450. Then you have the prescription, then you have the Beam. But I like the idea that also you can use the touchscreen. So I don't know, something like that they need to figure out.
But it sounds like it's a very cool idea, and hopefully we'll see what it, snowballs into.
Like,
as
if it was a
that
case,
grows.
like even a case you slide your Pixel into, like it plugs into the USB-C port and has 2 more USB-C ports on the back, gives it a little bit of thickness, and then now you're in business, something like, I don't know. Ralph, X-Rail, you guys are on it. I know you are. Listen, we need to wrap up. Look at us. We've already, we talked about a few things. It's fine. Like, this is the whole point of this. I'm really glad we talked about the Pixels because we really haven't had a chance to talk about some of the more intricate little details. And I haven't talked about the Pixels with a Pixel fan.
Oh, I will always be your go-to Pixel fan.
Oh, great.
I love the Pixel user experience. I love the simplicity. I love some of the features like we were talking about, call screening and stuff like that. And that's what I use every day as my daily driver. So sometimes I will carry around another review device, but the Pixel is my go-to. That's what my SIM card's in.
That's awesome. Well, listen, thanks so much for being on the show. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, your various social media handle, where your content is found? I know you have a Twitch that's very popular and other things. So please share that with us.
Yeah, so on Twitch and YouTube, I'm just my name, Trisha Hirschberger. And then on all the other socials, I'm that girl Trish, but there's no I in the girl. So it's just that GRL Trish, which is very confusing. But way back in the day when I first signed up to get a Twitter handle, that girl Trish spelled correctly was taken, and Trisha Hirschberger was too long and wouldn't fit. So that GRL Trish is what we landed on, and that's what it is across Instagram, Twitter, all the other good stuff. But honestly, I'm most prolific on Twitch and probably Instagram nowadays. I still upload in all the places, but there's no real consistency there. Yeah. Twitch is the consistent place. Honestly, most of the content that I find is me working as an on-camera presenter and host for other brands. And so, you'll often find me working with Intel or Amazon or Nintendo. If you tune into one of their events, I just might be the presenter that day. You'll see.
That's right. Yeah, and you know where to find me, folks. I'm at Tankgirl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character. Just drop all the vowels and you got my handle. It's basically easy. That's the same on Twitter, on Threads, on Insta, on Blue Sky, on Mastodon, on everything. So find me there and find Trish and let us know, what you think of the show, what you think of the devices, if you have any comments, all that stuff. Please chime in. We'd love to hear you talk about that with us. And then, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com on all the major platforms. So please subscribe and tell your friends about it. If you're here for the first time, welcome. And YouTube is youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. There's a bunch of videos there. It's there, and you know how YouTube works. So subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment about these podcasts as well if you want to get my attention. That's totally fine. And if you want to help me out financially, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL, just like my media handle for social media.
Support that Patreon.
Yeah. So the Patreon gives you an option for a video version of this podcast. You get it a day in advance, and it's video, so you can see us chat, you can see the devices and stuff. It's fun, and you get it in advance. And I leave bloopers in. I leave, sometimes you go overtime, I leave a little extra content. So consider doing this. $5 a month, every week gets you a show in advance. And you get it early. So there you go. Consider that. And there's other tiers too if you want to help out with other, more or less or whatever you can afford. Patreon.com/tankgirl. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Infineon. Infineon Technologies is a global semiconductor leader in power systems and IoT. The company is committed to driving decarbonization and digitization together with its ecosystem partners. And Trish, thanks so much for being on the show. So nice to have you finally.
Thank you for having me. This has been such a delightful chat, Miriam. You're the best.
I know. It's so great. I love it. We nerded out. It was awesome. All right, folks, stay tuned. I'll have Trish on again at some point in the future, and we'll have another show next week. So until then, cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.